Huh. Alright, yeah, we're live. Okay, so New Japan Pro Wrestling, All Elite Wrestling, World Wrestling Entertainment, World Wonder Ring Stardom, the NFL, the NBA, the XFL, all promotions, not even just wrestling, events all over the world, E3, many St. Patrick's Day parades and Disneyland. All places of all works of earth are being greatly affected by, we're going to call it the CV here, because any YouTuber who is monetized that uses the actual name of this epidemic going on right now gets demonetized. And I would like to keep them ads running. So we're just going to call it the CV in this episode. For all of you who don't know what we're talking about, we're talking, of course, about the coronavirus. And yeah, we're going to be talking about that today. We're going to be talking about all the promotions it's affecting, and of course the big topic being Wrestlemania and whether it should be canceled. I'm here not alone in this episode of Chopo Podcast, this emergency episode of the Chopo Podcast. This is episode 11. I'm here with a few guests. I'm here with some of my good friends. We're going to introduce one after the other. We have my very good friend, Franklin, here with us, who I have muted, so maybe I should unmute him so that way you guys can hear what he's saying. Franklin, let's try again.
Hey, what's up?
We also have Alex, who's also here with us.
How we doing, folks?
We have Alejandro.
Hello.
And I'm sure you guys heard him on here before. We have independent pro wrestler Logan Stunts.
How it do, kangaroos?
And we are collectively here to be talking about Chopo Podcast episode 11, covering one topic today. I was going to talk about a few other things, you know, the Young Bucks and the 6-star rating and what's going on, but I figured we would just focus on this one topic, and that is the CV. So, it's been a crazy 24 hours, to say the least. I mean, this has been dating back since the end of January when it first started up in China. And it's been eking its way inside the countries, Japan, Italy. It's affecting, somewhere around 99 different countries all over the world. And the United States is one of them. We're climbing up to the top slowly but surely. I think we're like the 5th most affected country right now. And on March the 12th, it seemed like everything related to the United States has just been come crashing down. I mean, asking you guys, what do you guys think about this last 24 hours and all the stuff being canceled? Not just professional wrestling, but just like things overall. Like, do you get the perception that maybe this is overblown? Do you think we're playing it safe with all the cancellations of the events? Like, how do you guys perceive this? I'm gonna ask Franklin first.
I think it's really scary. I think you just look around at the domino effect that this could have on the whole nation, on a medical aspect, on personal aspect, on a economic aspect. And, you know, at first it was funny, the coronavirus, everybody made their jokes. But slowly but surely you start seeing people. I remember being in Walmart a couple weeks ago, doing some shopping, and I see this family, just this small man pushing this big old cart of nothing but water bottles, and it just hit me like, oh my god, he's preparing. And at that point, you know, I thought it's a little bit ridiculous. We haven't had a case yet, and now there's a case about 15-30 minutes away from me, and the reality of it sets in. And you realize that at any point this could hit you, this could affect your health, this could put you on the street if things go bad. And you start to see just how powerful this really is.
It really is. Alex, how's it been affecting you? I mean, you live in San Francisco, if I'm correct. That's one of the most populous cities in the world. And I know it's hit San Francisco already. How's it been affecting you, and what's your perception of this?
Actually, no, I'm not from Northern California. I'm actually from Southern California. Just to rephrase, no, it's all good. No worries. Just it's been wild lately. I'm a university student, so because of CV, all of my university is based off of San Diego County, and every single school in San Diego County has been, shut down, and they're only doing online courses. So you have to do online meetings and all that stuff, and it's been kind of brutal for international students, because a lot of international students are from Asia or Europe, and if they're not allowed to go back to their countries because they canceled all flights from those specific locations. So they're pretty much stranded here in California, man. And especially when they're closing down the buildings and they're closing down the dorms and stuff, they're pretty much almost damn near homeless unless they can find a friend or someone they know to accommodate them for the time being. So it's kind of sad seeing a lot of students, especially a lot of people that are graduating, myself included. A lot of us already spend money on commencement ceremonies, our caps and gowns and all that stuff, and letting us know that your commencement ceremony might be either delayed, postponed, or not even happen. It's ridiculous. And then there's a city near me, 30 minutes away from where I live. There was already like 5 to 6 cases of individuals that are already, contagious with CV. At first, like Franklin said, it was ha ha ha, jokes, the memes. And it got really serious when me and my family, we just wanted to do, your regular grocery shopping, buy rice, pasta, toiletries, and to see it, damn near empty. I mean, I was upset about it at first, but then I'm like, you know what? I'm a healthy person. I'm living. And then when I see, older people, in their 60s and 70s, the ones that, would probably can get it fatal more than any of us, struggling to, find toiletries like toilet paper, paper towels, whatever you name it. We found some, and me and my parents, had to sacrifice that to give it, to these older folk, because we're like, what, we can survive a couple of days without toiletries, but this could be a necessity for them. So I feel like everybody's hoarding unnecessary stuff to unnecessary needs, and it's people that are healthy. It's not the people that need it the most. It's people that are selfish about it. Be like, oh, mine, I don't want to die, yada yada yada. Whereas older people that want to get it don't get that advantage.
I don't want to cut you off here, Alex, but I just want to segue into like how I completely agree with you, because I actually work in a warehouse, a food warehouse, and today of all days was probably the busiest day I think I've ever seen. And I work all year round, whether it be the winter, the spring. I'm there for Christmas, I'm there for Thanksgiving. I don't work during Christmas and Thanksgiving, but the rushes that come before those days are usually always the busiest. And we always get the few 500, 400 people coming in every hour during that time period, or 500 near that. But today, I mean, as soon as you walk in, you just see this flood of people with carts just rolling around and trying to grab stuff. And I remember it was like 4 or 5 p.m. Usually that's the time where, business dies. But like at 5 p.m., the door count for 1 hour, 828 people entered in warehouse in 1 hour. And that's scary, because I've never seen that many people enter in 1 hour before. And then the next hour was 808. So that's 1,600 people that entered in the warehouse in 2 hours, which is ridiculous. And overall, 22,000 people entered in the warehouse that day. 22,000 people. And I was wondering, at first I'm like, well, I understand, the president just had a conference yesterday. Maybe that's got people all up in arms. But like, why are there this many people here? And then I go look online and I realized that Delaware just announced a state of emergency. So that explained why at 5 o'clock, 2 hours after they announced it, it just got bombarded. Like, we literally, I showed them pictures. Like, all the bread was gone, all the milk and eggs were gone, all the fruit were gone, all the meat was just, there was nothing left. All the freezer food was gone. Like, everybody was just basically taking stuff like rations. Like, the end of the world is happening. And I'm not trying to make it seem like it's not a big deal, but like, people were taking stuff like it was nothing. We had to limit like the amount of water you can take, because we sold out of that by like 1 p.m. We had to limit the toilet paper. People were coming asking me for bleach all about a time, and I'm like, no, we're sold out. We're sold out of this. We're sold out of that. It was just sad. And then by the end of the day, I'm hearing from like other people on my coworkers, there's people climbing up the steel. Like, how in warehouses there's like steel, and then on top of the steel there's like pallets of more food. There were people climbing up the steel to get milk and other things, and I've never heard of that happening. Like, that is dangerous levels of panic that people are going through right now, and I can completely relate to the situation. But Alex, I'm gonna get back to you. I just wanted to get that story out there just to remind you guys just how serious people were taking the situation here.
No, and it's actually correct because the warehouse that you work at, that store also exists here in California where my parents wanted to go shopping, and the fact that they said my mom said asked an employee that in the span of an hour and a half of the opening hour, all the toiletries were sold out. So I'm like, I understand that all of us are in a state of panic, but the ones that are in main panic are the individuals that have well immune systems, the ones that are healthy, well nourished, whatever you want to call it. I feel like those are the ones that are overreacting the most, and the ones that are almost at risk of getting fatally killed by CV. And it's sad really that during times of panic, the greed shows in a lot of people. Were like, oh no, it's mine. I don't want to share with anybody else that needs it the most. It's me. I only care about me, myself, and I. And it's scenarios like this, where at first it was all memes and jokes, and now from a sociological standpoint, it shows the true colors of individuals, of who's greed, who's out there just for themselves, or who's out there to help out one another. And I'm just like in a scenario where I'm like, do we really need to hoard all these, all this stuff, or is it just, it's just out of us being, fear? That's pretty much where I want to get at. Where everybody, right here in California, everyone's all panicking mode and all that stuff. Everybody's upset. Oh, Disneyland closed. Oh God, why are they closing Disneyland? And I'm just like stop worrying about the materialistic things and just worry about trying to help out the less fortunate that that could become another number and statistic in CV.
I completely agree. Alejandro, you live in Kansas. Has it been really bad over there for you guys? I don't really know if there's too many cases in Kansas yet. What's your perception of this?
Cases, but I don't know much about it. Like in the past few days, whenever I hear about the CVE, I didn't really care about it. Like Franklin Alex has mentioned, I be laughing at the meme. I mean, I still do now because my dark. But now I'm seeing all these public events, all these sporting events being canceled. I'm starting to come to a realization that we should start taking this more seriously. So start worrying about our health, especially of our older family members.
I definitely agree on the part about older family members because tomorrow I'm going out like early in the morning with my grandmother and we're going to get like food. Mainly some for me, but I'm mainly getting it for her because it's like she's like 60 and my grandfather's 60, and they're healthy for the most part, but it's like they're the most susceptible, so they need as much as they can get: toilet paper, water, foods. They need everything. So I'm willing to spend a great amount of my money to make sure that they're stacked up on everything. But I hope I didn't cut you off. What were you about to say?
No, because supposedly the CV affects mostly the older people. Everyone not. I mean, I really don't have much to say because, I'm sure of all of us five, I'm the least worried about the CV.
Yeah, I guess I can get that part. But Logan, you lastly, how's your perception of the virus and how's it been affecting you in Mississippi?
Well, 2 days ago, a dude flew back from Florida to Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And that's only a few hours away from me, and he was tested positive for it. And then I think a month ago, actually, a man tested positive for it in Memphis, which is only 15 minutes away from me. But I haven't looked up on that story. I don't know how that actually turned out. But I went to go grocery shopping today, we need groceries, and I go to find toilet paper, and all the toilet paper is gone. Literally every single one. Not paper towels or tissues, or dish soap or anything. It was just only paper towels, and we couldn't find hand soap anywhere. And we're going up to the register, and there's one lady with a full basket of toilet paper. Now, I understand some people, I understand the panic, because it's honestly, I don't know if it's worse than we think, but I feel like it could possibly become worse. and but I don't understand the toilet paper. I could understand hand sanitizer and hand soap, but
Well,
there's a lot
to
of
elaborate on that, I think a lot of the perception from many people was that the toilet paper that we get in U.S. is imported from China. So a lot of that is kind of fear of, well, we don't know exactly where. Like, I've gotten a lot of people in the last few days asking me, where is this toilet paper from? Like, where does your company get the toilet paper from? Like, they want to know if we got it from China, and I have to tell them, I'm like, I don't think so. And if we have gotten from China, I wouldn't be able to tell you because they don't tell me anything. But like at that point, they don't care. Like, there's only like 2 stacks left, and they're trying to buy it. So that's where I'm getting the toilet paper kind of frenzy from. And that's the one thing we sell out of quickest between that and water.
it,
But back
but
to what you were saying.
every panic the U.S. has, it's always toilet paper.
People don't want to wipe their ass with their hands, I guess.
It's like that with natural disasters too.
Yeah, natural disasters and then all the previous diseases we've had in the past, you know, Ebola, Zika, the swine flu. The first thing to go was toiletries and water.
Yeah.
I know it's bad enough to the point where some counties are blockading access from other counties. Like right now, my older sister's in Broward, my younger sister and my dad are in Dade, and they can't see each other. People from Broward
Wow.
aren't allowed to cross over to Dade because there was 2 cases reported in Broward. And considering the fact that where my mom lives, Lee, also had a case come out the same day as the cases in Broward came out, that means my mother can't see her daughter, my father can't see his daughter. It's bad. I have to go down there for medical reasons, and I don't even know if I'm going to be allowed in, or if I get in, if I'm going to be able to leave. That's something I legitimately have to find out tomorrow.
Yeah, that's really sad to hear, and I definitely can see this happening where I'm at because there's 6 reported cases in the state of Delaware, and if I'm correct, I believe all of them are in like Newark, Delaware. Like, they're all coming from the University of Delaware, which is why the school got shut down, and they're having the conference tomorrow, and it's like nobody knows what they're actually going to say. Like, are they just going to say, well, the school's going to be put off for like this amount of time, or people are not allowed to come into Newark, which is where I work. I don't live in Newark, but I work in Newark. So it's like, well, can I go to work? Like, do I have to stay home? Like people are in a frenzy, and I think that's a lot of the reason why my job was so loaded today. So
No, and I feel you guys too, because I'm in that position as well, where you know the majority of the cases were in San Diego and Los Angeles County. In my county, the county of Riverside, I'm literally in the middle of both counties. My sister goes to school, you know, in San Diego County, and we're at that point where I'm like, I hope we pick her up in time before they close down, you know, the county lines. Like Franklin said, we're not allowed, and I'm like, well, we have to get my little sister from the main campus since they closed down, and we have no relatives in San Diego County. All of our relatives are here in Riverside County, and I'm just in a position where we're like, well, we hope tomorrow morning, you know, we get her right away, just so we can, you know, make sure that everything that she needs is up and ready.
Schools, colleges around here have closed until August, and they're all online now.
Yeah, same thing with my schools as well. They shut down all the physical campuses, and then it's just, you know, online courses right now until, like you said, August as well for us here.
Yeah, but also I'm probably not gonna have a job for a little bit because of it.
that's also the really saddening part, is that like when people they're having their like, you know, stores shut down, or whatever, there's people being out of work for long periods of time, and you know, not everyone has PTO. There are some jobs where it's just like, okay, well, if you don't work, you don't get paid. That's just how it is. Now, luckily for me, I get paid no matter what. I'm not going to get paid my full, like, 100% of my check. I'm only going to get a portion of that. But I'm going to get paid. Not everyone gets to have that luxury. So that's the really saddening part here, is that, you know, I don't know exactly if any of you know
No,
if you're
I'm
going to...
I'm in a position where you are, because at my place of employment, I get PTO, and I have a lot of friends that, you know, work on school campuses, and when they find out the school campuses are closed, they're pretty much out for a job for a while until the campus is open again. Some of them are, you know, teach professors. Some of them are, you know, custodial workers, and I'm like, if they shut down the school, that means nobody gets a job, and I'm just like, they're like, what am I supposed to do for a job, man? I said, I don't want to do, flipping burgers and all that stuff for the time being. They're like lost. I'm like, and it sucks because here I am where I really can't relate like you. I'm in a position where, hey, I accumulated all these PTO hours, so I'm like, I'm almost guaranteed paid for an X amount of time.
Yeah, right now I get paid, but my girlfriend doesn't, and it's a bad position to be in. I mean, so far it doesn't look like her job's gonna shut down or anything, but if she gets sick, has respiratory issues, that's a scary thing to think about on so many levels for me.
It's very scary thinking about the possibility of a family member or anybody getting sick, and I feel like that's kind of the situation where some of the people who say that, oh, well, the flu has killed more people, or I might have to go off here a little bit on these people because they really make me mad. But like, oh, the people that say, oh, the flu has killed more people, and the flu this, and the flu's more dangerous, and it's not as bad as this. And yeah, we could have said this a few weeks ago when the virus wasn't as huge and as much of a pandemic as it is right now, but there's literally all these events, all these places, people are about to be out of jobs for a while. So when I hear people say stuff like, well, it's not that bad, and I feel like it's being blown out of proportion, is it really being blown out of proportion when the President of the United States is coming out and saying that we're at a tough time and we're going to have to... I don't think we're at this point where... I think if this were happening back in February, maybe we would say it's being blown out of proportion. But in March, where not just the United States, but almost all the world is completely affected by this, I think... I'm not saying that the panic is necessary, but I think the panic is in a sense warranted. I think, with the panic comes a lot of fear that, people want to be safe. They don't want to be in a sense, people don't want to get that sense of, oh, what would have happened if I would have got this at this moment, or maybe my family member would have been here if I would have got this. Like, people don't want to think about what if. They want to get that sense of reassurance, and I think that's why a lot of people are going out here and just, panic buying. They're just buying whatever they can. And I feel like I'm slowly falling into that category with tomorrow, like going out there and buying a bunch of stuff. But it's like, I feel like I'm warranted. Like, I got to make sure my grandmother and my grandfather are safe, and I got to make sure that I'm safe. I mean, I'm kind of running this house by myself. My mother's on vacation. It's really just me and my dog right now. Like, we just gotta make sure we're all fine here. I think everyone can agree. Like, I think the people who are just saying, the flu is worse, like, I feel like they're kind of don't have a leg to stand on at this point.
No,
We have a
they are.
vaccine for the flu.
No, yeah, they are. I mean, I know. And then when they use the term like, oh, the flu has killed more. But here's the thing with those people. You are pretty much putting up the accumulation throughout time, not a specific time frame. An accumulation throughout time. That's where it pisses me off. We're like, oh, the flu has killed more people, yada yada yada. I'm like, yeah, because you're using the accumulation for the entire time of the existence of the flu, whereas the coronavirus, it's
3 months.
Yeah, it's spreading faster than the flu itself did. I'm like, the fact that almost every single country in this world either has a case or recorded death should be an alarming notice. That'd be like, hey. Like, I'm like, okay, I get it. Yeah, the flu killed more people, but they killed more people throughout the historic time frame, not just a specific single time. Whereas, CV is just taking jabs and just, attacking every country, seeming that it seems fit. It's ridiculous that people are saying, oh, like, oh, it's just a hoax, yada yada yada. I'm like, is it really though? The fact that every single country has been diagnosed with this, it should be an eye opener, honestly.
I totally agree with you, and I definitely feel like it's probably going to get a lot worse before it gets better, especially with the time it's seeming like more and more of these cases come out and more deaths reported by today. It's just a matter of time that we just got to stay safe, wash your hands, and all that kind of stuff, and hopefully everyone is taking the precautions that they should. But we're going to dive into the topic I'm sure all of you have been waiting for. We've been going at it for 20 minutes about how serious this virus is. Now we all could talk about pro wrestling. We all love pro wrestling here, right?
Bless you.
I hope all of us do.
Well, some of us love pro wrestling.
Pro wrestling is for the man.
It's alright.
Yeah, it's alright, I
you-
guess. It's alright. But pro wrestling has been greatly affected by the corona. I think out of really any sport, and you could debate on whether you think pro wrestling is a sport or an art form, but we're going to categorize it as a sport for the sake of this video. Out of any sports, whether it be football or basketball or hockey or baseball, like I feel like pro wrestling is affected by this greatly because we don't have all these types of leagues that are funded by multi-million-dollar companies like WWE and AEW, which is fairly new, and I'm not going to pretend like they're not one of the top dogs because they are at this point. But not every company has all this elite backing, and a lot of these companies are going through really, really rough times at this point. I mean, I don't get the sense that anybody that's a pro wrestler is having an easy time. I mean, I think, Logan, you more than anybody here can relate to the situation. I mean, like, what precautions are you guys taking? Like, what are you guys going through in all this situation?
I've lost about 2 bookings already this month. So I have 2 left, and that is this weekend. And then if Mania is canceled, I'm out for that's about 2 months I'm out. And that's money. And I won't have money, basically. I'm out of a job here, and I'm out of a job in wrestling. I don't know what I'm about to do.
Yeah, I know it's very rough to talk about, and I'm sorry I had to bring that up, but just to get the reality of other people out there who don't realize that, yes, pro wrestlers are there for entertainment, but they're real people too. They're real people who have to get paid. They do this to make money, and yes, they do it to entertain us, but they have to get paid as well. They have to be compensated in a way, and when something like this happens, it's putting pro wrestlers, especially independent pro wrestlers, out of work. They can't do anything, and I said earlier before we went on air, the bookers, like I feel especially like terrible for them because they got to refund all these people who paid money for the tickets, and God knows what they've been doing in order to build up these shows. Like for WrestleMania weekend, there's a lot of independent wrestling shows running that weekend, and I can't even imagine how much money they have to kick out for these events, and now a lot of them either are canceling the events or they're still running them knowing that they're probably going to get at least half or most of the audience they were projected to have slice just by the mere thought of this CV that's going on right now. And the first question I got to ask you guys is about professional wrestling, and like with all the events being canceled here, do you think it is important that these events get canceled in the sense that we gotta protect the safety of just staff and everybody else, or do you think that it's being overblown to proportion that maybe they could still run empty arenas? Like, what are your perception on professional wrestling events being canceled? Like, I know we all know it's not the fault of the companies, it's nobody's fault here, but how do you guys perceive this situation?
The way I would perceive it, honestly, is I totally agree with if they cancel it, they kind of have to cancel it. I mean, the revenue is with, the spectators.
And we're not just talking about one particular event. We're talking about multiple events. I mean, AEW canceled events. Before AEW was New Japan. They canceled their entire New Japan Cup tour. Stardom has canceled all the shows in March. AEW just canceled a few shows. I mean, they rescheduled, but they've had to cancel and relocate, which that dupes out Newark, New Jersey, and Rochester, New York, that had shows coming up. SmackDown is moving to Performance Center. They basically canceled in Detroit. Impact Wrestling just canceled some shows. ROH just canceled their anniversary shows. Like, it's affecting almost every promotion here. So that's what you're saying, Alex. I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. The fact that, the SmackDown, one of the biggest television broadcastings for, professional wrestling, the second biggest one behind Raw, had to cancel and go to the Performance Center. That's revenue they lost, where they're like, oh, we have to refund the fans. We have to give the money back to the stadium that leased us the location. And especially, with WrestleMania coming, how much money the city of Tampa invested to get, that location from, rumors and speculations. It said it was roughly like $77 million that the city of Tampa paid, WWE to host WrestleMania, in Tampa. And if they have to cancel it, that's money they have to give back. They have to give $77 million back to the city of Tampa, and all those other independent promotions that are that are being performed there as well. Me and Alejandro are planning on going, to Double or Nothing in May. But if a big spectacle like WrestleMania cancels, chances are the event we're going to has the possibility of either postponing or canceling as well. And it just doesn't hurt the fans. It hurts the company as well. The investment, the time, all these promotions put in to promote and be like, hey, come watch our product into where this quote unquote, not even quote unquote, this serious pandemic right now. Everybody's like canceling this, canceling that, and it's a big shocker when you have big organizations, like the NBA pretty much suspending the rest of the season. The National Hockey League just stopped completely. MLB pretty much postponed their baseball season, where I'm pretty sure chances are, if this simmers down and all that stuff, chances are this is gonna be the first time we see probably Major League Baseball and the NFL sharing a season in September, October. And like when you see these big organizations and backings, the one I'm more concerned about is WWE. AEW not so much, since the Khan family own these major petroleum organizations. They own the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're the only company that have a major financial backing where they can postpone, take them to other locations, whereas WWE, they can't find a last minute location. The only place they can go is the Performance Center because they own that facility. But all that ticket revenue and all those finances, just go out of proportion. And other companies like Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, New Japan themselves, they're losing a lot of money. So I feel like it hurts, but it's a necessity to be like the well-being of the fans and the well-being of the wrestlers, because if they do let some people in, chances are they could be infected with that virus. And let's say, God forbid, a performer gets infected with them, they're sick, they're pretty much quarantined, they lose their stock, they lose bookings. And if you're a WWE wrestler, man, there goes your exposure and, your credibility, your popularity, and, your health. And that's what's most important. And with all that stuff, it's a precautionary issue, not only for the, the spectators, but the performers themselves.
Yeah.
A lot of background noise going on.
A lot of companies feel back to this situation where it's we have to run these shows, put so much stock into these shows, and if we don't, it's a major loss that could have.
Brakeland, you're breaking up a bit there, buddy.
I don't think it's on mine.
Yeah, I don't think it's somebody else's end.
Whose end is that on?
I think it's Logan's.
It might be mine. It just started storming really bad here.
No. Frank, what were you saying?
So,
I mean,
as I was saying, a lot of these companies, they have so much of their infrastructure riding on this, whether it's something big like WWE's WrestleMania or smaller indie companies. This is basically the main stream of revenue for the year. A lot of these companies have to put on a show. It's sink or swim. We have to take the risk, and I don't think any of them are fine with it. I don't think any of them feel great about it. But I know, as a person that's made revenue from the business, I personally don't want any of these events to be canceled. Because it's money out of my pocket. That's food off of my table. And yeah, it's selfish to think about, but at the same time, you have to. It's how you're going to eat. It's how you're going to make it to the next day. It's how you're going to prosper. And it's a health risk for the people involved in it, too.
That's a very interesting take.
Like obviously, the last thing bookers or wrestlers want to do is have their events canceled. They don't want to upset their fans, because fans are wanting to go to these events, see their favorite wrestlers and whatnot. So they gotta take under consideration the health of the fans and the workers, because they don't want to get anybody sick.
Well, everybody's entitled to a refund, and I don't think any fan is going to be forced to go. I don't think any company is going to say, no, we're not refunding you because you're scared for your health.
Mhm.
I know that, but
Well, I think
looking forward to
there
a
are
show,
some companies I think that are refunding. They've said they're going to refund people who can't make it, but not necessarily said they're going to refund people who are pulling out because they don't want to go. So I don't know how I perceive some of that. Like, where do you guys stand on that? Like, do you think all parties should be refunded? People who can't go and people who opt not to go because of the scare, or do you think they should only refund people who just can't make it for whatever reason, whether they're sick, whether their flight's been canceled, whether they logistically can't? Like, do you think it should affect all parties, or just the part of people who can't physically be there?
I feel like it should be
everyone
the
should get
ones that
their refund,
I,
100%.
I kind of, I kind of am in the flex where where if you physically physically can't make it, like let's say you're infected, or God forbid you're not infected but like that, you came into an accident, yada yada yada, yeah, whereas if it's out of fear, I'm just like, that's your gamble. You want to go for it. You don't, then that's on you for how much money you lost. But if because the ones that physically can't go, you literally can't go. Whereas out of fear, like this is where Franklin came along. The rest need the revenue, they need the money, they need the profit. That's food on their table. That's where I agree. If you're just going there out of fear, I totally understand that where you're coming from, that you can go out of fear. But you spent the ticket, and so there's people out there that that physically can and are willing to take the gamble, whereas you're just out of fear. And it sucks that that it's the way I'm wording it, but it's where I'm like, you took the like where well, it's beyond, it's beyond WWE's control, other AEW, all the independent promotion events, hey, it's beyond their control, because this is like a virus that that's beyond their control. And I'm just like, if you physically can't, then of course you're entitled to a refund. But if it's out of fear, then just, I know it's gonna hurt you in your pocket, but maybe just don't show up. I don't know how you would take it, Franklin.
I think when it comes to tickets, I think the companies are responsible. I think the companies are going to be responsible. But there are things that are out of the company's control. For example, if WWE does sell travel packages, but some people aren't very into the travel packages. They believe that they can find better hotels or better flights booked by themselves. How are you going to explain to an airline, oh, I bought this ticket specifically for WrestleMania, and now WrestleMania is canceled or postponed, or it's at risk because of the coronavirus. I want my money back. The airline's gonna laugh you off. It's not really their
Yeah,
problem.
that's way harder to get out of than just a
or-
regular admission.
Most hotels, for the basic package, they don't really do contingency plans. They don't really do
Refunds.
reimbursements. So they're gonna laugh you off. That's still 2, 3, 4, 5, 600 out of your pocket.
Well, I don't necessarily
Even
think
more.
I don't really necessarily think I'm gonna talk about. Well, we're gonna talk about it, but I don't necessarily mean the hotels and the flight carriers, because that's all independent. I'm talking about the showrunners. I'm talking about the people who are running these shows. Like, if you were to call, I don't know, let's see, Company A and say, hey, this virus, it's getting very serious. There's so many confirmed cases in Tampa, and so many events are being canceled. I think it's best if I don't go. Do you think that person should get a refund? I mean, if you ask me, at this point in time, with the world being all in a panic and a pandemic, I feel like, it's not our faults. We're not the cause of this, and neither are any of you. But it's like, I feel like at this point in time, it's like, I feel like everyone should get a refund, or nobody should get a refund. I mean, if you're going to refund one person for not being able to be there, you should refund the other person for, wanting to look out for their safety and their own health. I think it looks kind of weird to say, okay, well, you're sick, so you can't go, but you don't want to be sick, but you still have to go, or you just lose out on money. I feel like that looks weird, in my opinion.
That looks bad.
It looks bad on their part.
I don't think any company is going to resort to that. From what I've seen of how promoters have been handling this, from the tip-top WWE to smaller indie events, I think every promoter has been more than understanding of people's situation. I mean, obviously there's bound to be an exception to every rule, But for the most part, I think they've been more than willing to refund, more than willing to work with the venues. The venues have been working with the companies. I'm honestly pretty proud of how the wrestling business has handled this.
Mm-hmm.
And Logan, you don't have to comment on this if you don't want to. I know you're a professional wrestler and all, but like, what do you think about the whole notion of, all good refunds or just people who can't physically be there? Do you think it's a situation where if you can't be there, then you'll get your refund, or you think if you don't want to be there because of your safety, then yeah, here's your refund? Do you think all parties or just the one, or no parties?
I say all or none. Like, that's not cool to say one person can get a refund but another can't.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement on that.
It just doesn't look right to me.
No, yeah, it is true because it's either you or.
I don't see it coming to that though.
I hope it doesn't.
I don't see it coming to that.
No, like, yeah, it's not gonna be like, oh, none of you are gonna get refunds or all of you are gonna get refunds. I mean, but it is that scenario where I do have to agree, either everybody gets the refund or nobody does. Because if you pickpocket and pinpoint like, oh, you get it, but you don't, you get it or you don't, then then it's gonna look bad on the company's end. And in worst case scenario, if something ever like this happens again, God forbid it does, they'll be like, oh, this company didn't want to give us, this refund some time ago when we had this pandemic ages ago. So why should we, invested money in them? And then they're gonna look bad, and their stock is gonna drop, and it's gonna be worse for them financially if they have preferences on who they give refunds.
Definitely. And I go back to another topic. Well, Logan, you being pro wrestler, you don't have to elaborate on this if you don't want to, but let's talk about the companies, not one in particular, but there are independent wrestling promotions that are sticking to the guns and are going to run WrestleMania weekend no matter what. Doesn't matter if WrestleMania gets canceled or not, they're going to run it. Do you guys think it is in their best efforts to sanction shows that could bring out hundreds of people in a small area, knowing the ramifications? Do you think that's just? Do you think, when he spent all this money, they should be allowed to do it? Or do you think they should outright cancel it as well? Where do you guys sit with those people?
I feel like with those independent promotions, pretty much what you stated, they want to take the gamble. That is on them. The company decided that they're gonna risk it all, and knowing the scenario it is, that's totally on them. But like you said, it's a worse scenario where everybody's gonna be in panic mode. It's gonna hurt their pocket, but they're the ones that took that gamble and said, you know what, fuck it, man. We're going, guns blazing. We don't care what's gonna happen. We're gonna do it no matter what. We already invested. We already booked. We're gonna look stupid if we don't. Yada yada yada. I get it. Is it a bad move? Sure, it is, because it's hundreds of people, and chances are someone could get infected. It's at this point, it is possible. But if they want to take that risk, that's on them. I don't know how you guys see it. I don't know how.
Yeah,
you
Franklin.
see it,
Franklin, what do you think about that scenario there?
Alex, could you repeat the very end of your point? I'm sorry, it was cutting out for me.
I said that pretty much. It's it's all on the company. Like, they're the ones taking the gamble. That they should, if they suffer the ramifications, that's on them, because they're the ones that chose to continue it. So it's on the company's end. It's not the fans' fault, but the company themselves, because they're the ones taking the risk.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you still choose to run this show, knowing full well what your turnout could be, it's on you. You could have chosen to postpone it. I do think everyone's responsible for whatever decision that they make. And, I mean, they might still get a good turnout. There's still a lot of people willing to go at this point, from what I've heard around the grapevine. But for those shows that completely bombed, you chose to do it at a bad time. You picked a bad place, knowing full well that could have happened. So any income that you may or may not receive from this situation, even though the circumstances were out of your control, is still on you, because you chose to go through with it.
Alejandro, what do you think about that?
I mean, like they're saying, they gotta take a gamble because if they cancel, they lose a lot of money. You know, these wrestlers are depending on their shows. And obviously they gotta make sure they keep everyone healthy. Sanitize. Make sure fans or wrestlers don't get sick because they decided to take that gamble. If they might get sick, then it's the booker's fault. You can't blame the wrestlers or whoever.
And Logan, you comment if you want. What is your thoughts on that?
Hmm. I mean, I don't know. I'd still go.
You still do it? All right.
I'd,
So okay, so everyone seems to be in unison of they ran it, they should still run it. So let's say you're the promoter. What precautions are you taking before the show, during the show? What are we doing here? Are we making sure that we're running breathalyzers? Are we sanitizing? Like what are you running here to make sure that the shows are in top condition?
Obviously, sanitation, and call me a dick in this scenario, but during this scenario, no interaction with the fans. I know some wrestlers portray the baby face and the good guy, but I feel like no physical interaction. Like, don't high five.
No slapping
don't
hands.
No slapping hands. No, I'm sorry. Like, I'm gonna call me a dick, but no meet and greets especially during WrestleMania weekend. I know they want that. I'm sorry, but I'm like, call me a dick, but just cancel access altogether because there's spreading it through there is way more horrible. No high fiving, that just for not only for the well-being for the wrestlers but for the fans themselves as well, because you don't want them to infect the wrestlers, you don't want them to infect other fans. So pretty much that, sanitation. Another would be I don't think you can breathalyze CV.
No,
You can't, but
right.
wait, hold on. It was
but, like, yeah,
no.
like
There is
sanitation,
something.
Sanitation. Not only that, like I feel like like the officials should sanitize once again. Should sanitize and clean up the ring, the ropes, the aprons, the turbuckles, and all that stuff. Just to be precautionary. Just keep on sanitizing it out after every match. Just make sure everything's clean and up to par. That way, with disinfectant and all that stuff, chances are less of a chance to get the wrestlers infected and all that stuff.
From what I've seen, I know at least WWE sanitizes the ring after pretty much every match. At least NXT does. I really don't have as much experience with the main roster. But I don't know what the availability of the surgical medical masks are. But I'd honestly hand them out.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Yeah, I agree. I think masks should be handed out. I think gloves should also be handed out. I mean, if you can't wear elastic or whatever, we got something else for you to wear.
Yeah, like that'd be a perfect thing to do. I mean, like, granted, in places like Mania, it'd be hard to distribute, 70 to 80,000 surgical masks. But like small independent promotions, I feel like they could do it. They could hand out, like 200, 300 surgical masks just for them, because I know WWE has major, and possibly and AEW as well, have like major sanitary protocols where they'll find a way to make sure everybody's sanitized and healthy and good, whereas smaller independent promotions lack that luxury. And I feel like they should have precautionary measures like hand sanitizers, disinfectant wipes, surgical masks, rubber gloves. I feel like this should be like the ones taking initiative, like, hey, let's invest in with the revenue we got with, I feel like fans will have less fear of going to those independent promotional shows if they say, hey, we're distributing, surgical masks, rubber gloves, disinfectant, hand sanitizers.
And I think a lot of that less fear comes from the fact that these promotions are much smaller than WWE, that's going to be running a way bigger arena.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is as a fan, you can be proactive. You can buy your own mask if you're going to WrestleMania. Grab a surgical mask. I mean, yeah, sure, it might be uncomfortable for the duration of the 6-hour show, but you're gonna be a lot less at risk.
Yeah.
And even I agree with Alex's point of the no touching rule with the wrestlers and the fans, because even as a fan, you see this wrestler. This wrestler just traveled all over the country, some all over the world.
Where they been?
I don't want to touch someone that's been exposed to that many climates at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
I completely agree.
Yeah, sweating completely too, and all that stuff. And with the independent promotions, I feel like like you said, if they fans buy their own surgical masks, but if the smaller independent promotions or hell, even WWE or AEW, take that initiative where they're like, hey, we're distributing face masks and all that stuff, that fear diminishes a little bit because they're like, oh, hey, these companies or these promotions or these shows care about our well-being, that they're providing us with the stuff. That sense of fear starts to diminish just a little bit, not a lot, but enough to where, like, you know what, let's go enjoy our show. Like, yeah, we're gonna be uncomfortable, but our health is gonna be fine, so are the wrestlers, anybody else around us, and we'll have a good time.
I completely now I kind of have a thing in my head that I would do, and you guys tell me if this might be too extreme or not. But we're talking about things that we're doing during the shows, but before the show. For me, how I would do it is I would have a bunch of people at the door showing their tickets, and I'm going to have thermometers on deck. And if you're running a fever or you're over a certain level, you're not coming in. I'll get your refund, give me your email, but you're not coming in. Hold your breath for 15 seconds. If you start coughing up a storm, you're not coming in. Like that's how I would do it. If you can't pass the test, you can't come in. That's just how it is. I don't care if you're not sick, if you're sick, or if you have CV, if you have just a mild. I don't want to take that chance.
No, it's a harsh protocol, but in the scenario we're in, bro, it's absolutely unnecessary. I wouldn't disagree with it. Like, the doing the thermometer thing, I wouldn't disagree on it at all, because it's another protocol, to make sure we're in a scenario where having the temperature with CV and the temperature of the common cold is pretty much similar. They're pretty much the same, similar above in temperature, and you want to make sure everyone's well-being is good. And if you refuse it, then you won't attend them. Like, hey, we'll just give you a refund. I'm sorry, but we're taking protocol. It's a harsh protocol, but it's a necessary one. So I would agree with you. That would be a good necessity.
Yeah, I'd like to think that I'm in agreement too. Even if it's just a regular virus, you have viruses. You have people from all over the world there with different body types that are used to different things.
Yeah.
Coming from different climates. It's a health risk in general. If someone's running a temperature or someone's coughing too much,
yeah,
I just tell them, look, there's a line there for the refund. That's the best we can do for you. Unfortunately, you can't come here.
If you were to tell me this, like, back in February or January, it'd be like, okay, you're overreacting, like, calm yourself. Well, since we're pretty much down to the nitty gritty of WrestleMania weekend, I feel like it is absolutely necessary. I mean, there's a lot of sporting events that are doing, empty arenas, but even then, that loses revenue. Whereas yours is a protocol that's absolutely necessary. Where I'm like, you know what? I'm sorry, but we're trying to look out for the well-being of everybody, including yourself, man. Because let's say you do have just a normal common cold. You're coming up with the flu, and someone else has CV, bro. Chances are you're not gonna make it because you already have high temperatures and your body's already exposed to bacterias, and it's gonna hurt you even more.
Yeah, and I don't really see many people talking about the protocol I just said, and I really hope people catch on to this and possibly consider doing this if any bookers tend to, well, probably not, but anybody listens to this, because it's like, I feel like a lot of people are going to get the sense that it might be rude to see someone coughing and be like, oh, well, I'm sorry, but you can't come in. Or someone might be looking a little bit too light in the eyes during the show, and you have to walk out and be like, listen, I'm sorry, but you got to go. Like, I feel like at this time, people should not be afraid to do that and look bad in any sense of form. I feel like if I'm sick, and I'm being selfish, and I come to the show, and I get shooed away, yes, I'm going to throw a hissy fit that I'm not let in, but at the end of the day, it's for the better of everyone else. I feel like you can't just look out for the fact that I want to save face, so everyone has to come in. I think you have to bring it down to, if you don't fall under this type of measurement, you can't come in. And I'm not saying you're not going to get a refund, but you just can't come in. You can go to whatever other promotion you want. You could shit talk us on Twitter or whatever, but you just can't come in. I'm sorry. Alejandro, Logan, I don't think you really elaborate too much on it. What do you guys think?
About the protocol?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if I walked in the stadium and I saw that, I'd get why they're doing it, but in my head, I'd be like, this is stupid. But I'd agree. It's for the safety of everyone.
I mean, listen, if I get a thermometer thrown at me, I'm not gonna shoot it. Well, like, I feel like if someone tries to test you and you are despondent or you don't want to do it, that gives me even greater reason to not let you in. Because it's what are you trying to hide?
It, obviously, but I think in my head, I'd be like, this is stupid.
Oh yeah, you
But
can think
I'll
it's
still
stupid
do it.
all you
I'll
want,
follow
but
protocol.
it's either that or don't come in. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Like
You gotta
Logan,
follow protocol to what?
as a pro wrestler, do you stand by this? Do you think promoters should be doing stuff like that, making sure that people are clean when they come in?
Yes. Yeah, I think we need. I think. I don't see. I've seen it at some shows, but like, and you talked about it earlier, but like sanitize the ring after every match. I've seen it at some shows I've gone to, but it's not at every show. But like, have people wash their hands before they're allowed in, stuff like that, and then if you need to check people's temperature, you can. I don't know how extreme it would get, but whatever measures people need to go to keep everybody safe, they need to do it.
I completely agree. Nothing more. I mean, it was my idea as well, but I agree no more. Nonetheless. So that being said, we've been talking for a good almost an hour now. I guess it's time to get into the big topic everybody's talking about here, and we've been talking about independent promotions, but now let's talk about WrestleMania. So they just had a press conference earlier today. The city of Tampa did. And it kind of seemed like we really didn't get much of an answer about whether it's getting canceled or not. It seemed like it just kind of got passed off to, well, I mean, it seems like WWE has say in whether WrestleMania happens or not, but then ultimately it's going to come down to the city on whether they approve of it or not. Almost like they have to sign a permission slip. You know, WWE grants permission, but the city has to sign a permission slip. I feel like that's the scenario we're in right now. I feel like it's just a big game of reverse Uno, and people just don't want to take the blame for whatever happens, and it's really sickening to see, in my opinion. But one thing I do want to start off with here is the city of Tampa, and it's a populated city. There's going to be a lot of people coming in from different parts. It's not just the United States. You have all world travelers coming from all around the world.
That's if the travel ban is lifted.
That's
Currently,
it.
none of those people can get in.
Is the travel ban on like all countries, or is it just in Europe?
Travel ban is on every country except the UK, from what I'm aware of.
I thought it was
People
just
from the
all of
UK.
Europe except for the UK.
It was all of Europe.
I only heard of Europe.
I think it's
Yeah,
all
I
of
heard-
Europe except the UK.
I think all Europe.
No. I think everybody would have known if it was all of the world. That'd be insane. But no, I think it's just all of Europe.
Well, I'm pretty sure that if Europe already got hit, that most of the Asian countries, and I know a lot of the Middle Eastern countries, are actually on their own. But considering that most of the Asian countries are where it started at, I really doubt anybody's going to be let in from there. And I think it's only going to escalate as the week goes on. I don't think we're going to see as big of an international turnout as we're used to.
One thing I did want to ask, and I know it's going to sound like a weird question, maybe far out there, and, you know, I don't expect anyone to say yes, but one thing I don't hear people talk about is the scenario where maybe the city of Tampa says, okay, we'll let the Americans in, but nobody else from any other country can come in to see it. Like, there are a lot of other countries far worse than the United States. Italy is one of them, even though they have a travel ban, they can't go anywhere. China, Japan, you gotta imagine there's a lot of wrestling fans in China, Japan, Ireland that want to come over here, and they have worse cases than us. Do you think the city of Tampa should step in and be like, listen, no other country except for the United States is allowed into the city? Or do you guys think it should be open to the public?
Open to the public. I don't know if anyone else agrees. Or...
I'm going to give the perspective as someone who does plan on attending. I'd feel a lot safer if it was that way, and it pains me to think that way because, I very against discrimination or, limiting people based on where they come from or anything like that. But I feel like I could walk around that stadium, Raymond James Stadium, a lot easier if I knew, okay, there's only a limited amount of cases here. There's only a very small chance that I can get this. Because if it's coming from another country, and I know that most countries that dealt with a crisis have a travel ban going on right now, but if it's coming from another country, I would have that fear.
Alejandro, you sound like you're about to say something. What do you think?
No, I'm saying that I think it should be open for the public. I don't know if anyone else would agree with me on that.
Alex, do you think it should be open to all countries or just the United States?
I'm like Franklin. I'm not a discriminatory person, man, and I don't like being prejudiced in all that scenario. But it's in a scenario where protocol is necessary, and I think it should be at this day and age. I don't want to sound offensive, but I feel like it's necessary, to just open it to the states, just because if it's especially not necessarily now in this day and age. I'm not this day and age right now. A lot of European fans are not allowed to come, and what sucks is basically Japanese and Chinese fans and a lot of Middle Eastern fans, a lot of them have to go to take European routes to get to their flights, and they're pretty much going to stay in place unless they can find a way to fly from Japan, Asia, come to the West Coast, get another connect flight, and go to Florida, because it's going to be more money for them. But right now, it's more of a safety protocol. Just keep it domestic for now.
Logan, what do you think? Do you think it should be open to all countries? Do you think it's safer that only Americans are allowed to travel to the city of Tampa for WrestleMania?
How many countries have shut down their borders and stuff now?
All of Europe and the Middle East so far. All of Europe minus the UK and the Middle East.
Oh,
The
also
Middle East
Italy. Italy, no one can come in, no one can leave.
Yeah, I know nobody can go into Italy. I think if somebody is going to come in, that they have to be tested before they go in.
Well, obviously they're going to be screened beforehand, but do you think it's a greater risk to have travelers from all over the world come in as opposed to people who are just local?
At the moment, it could possibly be bad, but it depends. I guess it all depends on how serious the people end up taking it.
In my opinion, I feel like I don't really know where I sit with it, honestly, because part of me is like, okay, I think everyone should be allowed to come and, experience WrestleMania. People are going to get screened when they land. But then it's also just taking that extra precaution of, okay, we've only have 1,000 certain cases in America. You have all these people from different countries come in. That's a lot more potential cases you have coming into this one country, and that could affect us more greater than it's affecting everyone else. It's not just one country, it's a bunch of people from all over the world coming into Tampa for this city. So I guess for me, I hate to sound like everyone else said, I don't want to sound prejudiced. I don't want to sound like, America, the home of the free, land of the brave, should only be allowed to experience this. But I feel like maybe I lean more towards the fact that maybe this should be just available for U.S. fans. I mean, it's not like every WrestleMania after this will be available for only U.S. fans to transport. But at this present time, we're at a crisis. And I feel like allowing others in and not knowing exactly who they are, where they came from, what's going on with their country, it's a scary thing to think about. And I feel like for me, I lean more. I completely go with that side. I hate to be the person like I'm somewhere in the middle, but I guess I lean more towards keeping it local. Just saying, hey, if you live within these 50 states, you're welcome to come, and if you're not, I'm sorry. I mean, Italy is going through that already, and all of Europe except for UK is going through that. All those people are screwed, and I feel bad for them because people probably been planning this trip for months, maybe even a whole year, and just like that, they can't come in no matter what. They should, and they will get the refunds, but they're not allowed in. That's just it. And I really feel bad for them, but I feel like precautions are being made, and they're the necessary ones.
I'd like to point out they'll get their refunds from the company, but if they didn't purchase their flight or their hotel through a travel package, they got a lot of digging to do, a lot of long distance calls to make, and God knows if they're even going to get their refunds at the end. I mean, these people could be in the negative because of this situation for a while.
Alex, were you about to say something?
No, it's exactly the same. Like I said, it's in a scenario where with, let's just say they do let the international fan base do, but if they don't let them in because like, oh, you have symptoms or possible symptoms of of CV, obviously they're gonna be, like they said, they're gonna be stranded basically. Like Franklin's pretty much said, they're gonna be stranded. They're gonna try to get funds, to try to get a place to stay, and then try to find another flight to book. And it's going to be a financial struggle for those international flights, because international flights are expensive as hell. Tyler, you went to Wrestle Kingdom. You can attest how expensive international flights are.
Yeah. I got lucky paying $600 for my flight, but normally last year when I tried to go, the cheapest flight was like $1,200. I could definitely attest to travel from different countries being hella expensive, so I definitely sympathize with those people. But another topic I want to get into before we get into the main one, I know I have so many subtopics to talk about here. I'm just kind of spitballing from my head, honestly, at some of these. Tony Khan, the president of All Elite Wrestling, said in the latest interview, he made an announcement regarding the talents, and stating that if none of the talent want to work any of the shows that are coming up, Rochester, the show they were having next week, has been relocated to Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida. Newark, New Jersey, Blood and Guts, that's been canceled. No note on where that's being relocated to, but that's been relocated. If any talent does not want to work any of those shows, they do not have to. If they don't feel comfortable and they feel like they might be at risk, they do not have to work those shows, and they will not be in jeopardy of losing a payday or their spot on the card. And I think that is it shows just how awesome and confident Tony Khan is in this company and exactly all these people he has behind him. And I completely 100% am behind this. But when we talk about WWE, we talk about a company that is sending their talent over to Saudi Arabia twice a year, and no matter what the situation is, unless you're like a top talent, you're going. You're going to wrestle in this show, you'll get your payday, but you're going. And I feel like after the last situation where these talent were stuck on a plane for a long period of time, it raised the question, if the talent, for any reason, let's say, I don't know, throw a talent out there, I don't know, freaking Dana Brooke doesn't want to wrestle at WrestleMania. Let's just say the scenario happened is where it's still happening. She doesn't want to wrestle WrestleMania because, there's too many people there. How do I know who has what? Do you think that the talent should be allowed to say, no, I don't want to wrestle in the show? Or do you think it's this kind of place where you work for us, you signed the contract, you have to work this show? Where do you guys stand with that?
It's Dana Brooke. I don't think people.
No, I'm just throwing a name out there. Be quiet. I'm just saying in general. If a wrestler does not want to work that show, do you think they should be allowed to say, I don't want to work this show, and be fine with maybe not being paid that day, but being let off the hook? Or do you think it's an obligation because they signed a contract?
I think, unfortunately, that's kind of how contracts work.
Yeah.
Like I said,
How independent contracting work, it's the nature of the beast. You sign that contract, you have to own up to it, or they have the right to terminate you, or legally repercuss you. That's the nature of the business. I mean, Tyler. From what I know, your job isn't super luxurious. If you decide that you don't want to go into work because you're scared of the coronavirus, what are the odds that? Oh, I apologize for the use of the word. What are the chances that you could they're still going to employ you?
Well, you have a point. They're not really all that great, and when you talk about any other not just wrestling business, any other job, I don't think a lot of people can just chalk up PTO as, oh, I don't want to come in because I don't know who has what or what I'm working with. I think a lot of people would be out of jobs if that happened. I mean, me personally, I can't just call out because I'm scared, you know what I mean? So I got to see from that point of view. If you have anything to elaborate more on, I would like to get some opinions from Alex and Alejandro and Logan.
Much like Franklin said, you sign a contract where you're legally obligated to follow these procedures. You have to abide by them. It sucks. It's a pain in the ass, but the reality is you agreed to these legally binding documents. You have to follow it, to a T. And like I said, unless you're up in the card or up in the position where you can pretty much say F off, I'm not doing it. Then you're screwed, bro.
Well, wait a minute now. I don't necessarily think that. No, I don't want to make it. I don't want to make it seem like I'm targeting you. I don't think it should be a fact that, well, if you are at a certain level, you can just say no, and everyone else, fuck them, they gotta go. I think
either way,
I do.
You think that it should be, if you are main eventer, you can't. You can choose not to go. I feel like that's unfair.
If Roman Reigns can say no,
I mean, if Roman Reigns said no, I don't want to go. I mean, I highly doubt they're gonna just say, okay, yeah, sure, no. But yeah, if Roman Reigns opts not to go, but Apollo Crews opts not to go, you mean to tell me they're just gonna be like, oh well, Apollo, you have to go because you're a low card guy, but Roman Reigns is allowed to stay? That sounds completely unjust to me.
It does sound unjust, but it does sound unjust. It does 100%, but that's just how
in a normal workplace job. If the employee of the month and somebody who may not be the star athletes both wanted to be out on the same day, who are they going to give it to? They're going to give it to, the employee of the month, right? But let's give a bigger perspective there. Let's say that both guys also want to do something else. Do you necessarily think that it's going to go to employee month, or are they just going to say, well, no, neither one of you can do it? Or are they just going to say, oh, well, I guess both you can do it? Like, what do they say in that situation? Professional wrestling is a different beast. I understand that. But I don't think it should be this place where you have to be at a certain level in order to, opt out. That just sounds like bullshit to me.
So Daniel Bryan has opted out of Saudi Arabia.
I understand he has, and I'm going to relate it to that too. Daniel Bryan opted out. John Cena once upon a time opted out of Saudi Arabia. And I've always, and I stand by that with them. It's like, I get they're bigger stars, but if these other wrestlers want to opt out and they don't want to go, whether it be Saudi Arabia or Tampa, or it could be buttfuck nowhere. If they don't want to go, then they should be able to have say in whether they go or not. I'm not saying the company has to let them, has to say okay, but they should have say in it. They should be allowed to stay home if other people are too. I just feel like that's just it makes sense to me. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense, but it just sounds incredibly unjust. But
I'd like to bring up.
It's easier to replace someone in a battle royal than like a singles match.
But they're still all humans. It's not. I mean, you're putting people on a pedestal at that point. Are you not?
If I could just bring up two different points. The first is that with the Saudi Arabia situation in particular, from what I'm aware of, there are talent that can opt out but choose not to opt out because of the financial payday that comes with the Saudi Arabia shows. I know for a fact Sami Zayn has opted out on multiple occasions, and he hasn't seen any repercussions that we're aware of.
He's not exactly a main event talent with a bunch of protections. As a matter of fact, I think his contract was just a converted contract from his NXT contract. So I think they are allowing certain people to opt out. It's just that when you're getting paid travel for the Saudi events as comparison to your normal travel schedule, and you're getting a bigger bonus out of these shows, you're not necessarily going to opt out. You're going to think of the money that you're going to be able to make from this, or the experience, or other factors come into play. That being said, if there was a discrepancy between the bigger stars and the lesser talent, or the lesser known talent, a lot of that does come down to the contract they signed. A lot of these contracts have certain travel perks, things like that, which allow these bigger talents to opt out. They earn those contracts. And they're not necessarily opting out through, I don't want to go. They're using maybe some of these clauses that's going to allow them to opt out and say, I don't want to go.
Huh. All right. Alejandro, what were you about to say? I feel like you were trying to get something in there, but I didn't get a chance to hear you out.
I don't think. I wasn't saying anything.
Huh?
Wasn't it Sami Zayn like Arabian or Muslim?
Syrian.
Sami
I think that's and then I'm sure they have problems with those people in Saudi Arabia. I think that's the main reason why.
But we're talking about Tampa here, or we're talking about the CV.
I'm just saying.
Okay, let me direct over to Logan. Logan, once again, you don't have to answer if for any reason, but do you think it's a type of scenario where all wrestlers should be able to opt out, or do you think like nobody should, or do you think that only main eventers should? Like, where do you stand with that?
I think everybody should be able to opt out if they need to. Especially if, like, say you're going to a place that got, that has a infection there with the virus. Like, you should be able to opt out if you don't want to. If you don't want to be there for that.
I agree with you. I believe that everyone should be able to. I'm not saying that everyone is going to opt out and they're going to have no show. I mean, if it gets to that point, then cancel the show and just lose out on money. I mean, you're WWE. You got contracts. You got brand deals that you can build off of. I highly doubt they're going to lose. They're going to lose money. No, let me not say. Let me not. Listen, let me not say this. They're not going to just lose like a few million. They're going to lose a lot of money. A lot of money. But I think the safety of the talent comes first, and if someone's concerned about their safety, I think it's up to you to say, okay, we care enough about your safety and your concerns to allow you to stay home. If they say, oh, well, you gotta go anyway, I mean, what relationship does that build with the talent versus the company? And I know that's kind of interpersonal, but that's how I see it. That's kind of how I see the scenario.
You also have to think about the legal repercussions. I mean, the city of Tampa, which seems very adamant on keeping WrestleMania going, could just say, well, we paid this much and we put in a bid for WrestleMania a year, 2 years in advance, and now you're not holding up your end of the bargain. What would the city of Tampa do? And even then, I feel like the city of Tampa right now, the main reason they're going through with all of this, I mean, this is just my personal assumption. I'm in no way saying that this is their thought process, but nobody wants to be known as the city that had to cancel WrestleMania. There's been 30-something WrestleManias, and none of them have been canceled up until now. Just like there's been 50-plus NBA seasons, and none of them have been canceled up until now. You don't want to be known as the guy, the city that had to cancel WrestleMania. That puts a dark cloud over your city in general, over your city's image.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I don't think it's going to be this this type of saying where, oh, well, they're the city that canceled WrestleMania. It's not because they canceled WrestleMania because, I don't know, Drew McIntyre got a boo-boo and he's not in the main event anymore, or like a major thing happened and they have to, hold back. It's not that scenario. It's something that's completely out of the company's control. This CV does not caused by Vince McMahon. He didn't outright make it the top storyline, and that's why. Like it's not something that they were prepared for. It's not something that anybody was prepared for. I think that if we got to that point already, and all these other promotions and outside of promotions, you have movie theaters that are pushing back like Hollywood, pushing back theater like announcements and movies that are being like Fast 9. John Cena starring in Fast 9. That's not happening until next year now. A Quiet Place is being pushed back. Movies are being pushed back. Events are being pushed back. The NFL, the NBA, all these companies
to bring
and
up other
sports
events
leagues.
of the Coachella
Peter
Music
Rabbit, I think.
Festival got
Coachella, one of the biggest music festivals every single year, has been pushed back. Like E3, the biggest gaming convention of the year, has been pushed back. I think this city should not be embarrassed if they don't hold WrestleMania. So
They shouldn't.
they should
Not at all.
should own up to it and just be like, okay, well, this is a safety concern. We shouldn't hold it. And I'm gonna pass it off to you guys in just a second. But if I'm Tampa, I'm not holding it. And I know WWE might. I don't know where WWE's head's at. And they might want to hold it. I know Vince. I think Vince would probably want to hold it no matter what. But if I'm Tampa, now this is just Tampa, not WWE's mindset we're talking about. We're talking about just Tampa here. If I'm Tampa, I'm saying no to this. I'm saying no, this is not being held. We're going to lose out a lot of money. We're going to be known as the first city to now hold WrestleMania. But it's better to be safe than sorry. And I mean that in a sense that if this show happens, and this is going to be on both WWE and Tampa, if this show happens, and let's say, we cut the number of projection in half, because I project half the people, or maybe even less, might not even show up. You cut it to like 40,000, 30,000 people showing up. All those people in one, yes, it might be open in the arena, it might be outside, but all of those people in one area is dangerous because of the pandemic, because of the threat levels that we're going through right now. Who's to say someone goes there with the CV and they infect 1,000 people in that arena, or hundreds, or even more than that? What happens if WrestleMania 36 is now known as the place that sprung out a mass exodus of people who are now infected and have to go back to their countries and back to other states? That's the fault of Tampa, and that's the fault of WWE. And guess what? They'll be raked over the coals by every news reporter, every state, every president, every prime minister. They're going to look at the United States, they're going to look at WWE, they're going to look at Tampa in a bad light if they hold this. And God forbid, and I don't hope this happens, but God forbid anybody gets the coronavirus there and fucking dies. Because people have died because of the coronavirus. If anybody gets the coronavirus in, it don't matter if it's WrestleMania, it could be for the culture. If anybody gets the coronavirus from these events and they know they were at these events during WrestleMania weekend and they die, how does that make professional wrestling look? Exactly. It makes us look like shit. So yes, I'm totally in favor of WrestleMania getting canceled, because if that happens, I don't know if I could even call myself a professional wrestling fan at that point. I mean, I don't know. What do you say to that? How do you explain that? I know it's not the wrestling fans' fault. I mean, here's the thing. I think you got to hold people accountable too. If you know damn well there is a virus going around that's affecting everybody, no matter the age, sex, gender, race, if you know it's affecting everybody, it's time to make a big boy decision. Do you want to go and possibly contract it, or do you think you should sit this one out? So I'm not going to put all the blame on WWE and Tampa. It's up to the fans. Do you want to put your life and your health at risk by going? Because if you go and you get it, guess what? It's WWE's fault, it's Tampa's fault, and it's your fault too. I think my rant's over there. I'm going to let you guys speak.
No, I totally agree with you. I'm in that same scenario. I know with all due respect, Franklin, I know you and our friends, are looking forward to and anticipating, WrestleMania, because you guys have been planning it since, December, January. But I see it like this. I'm like, pretty much Tyler said what I wanted to say. I'm like, it's a three-way dance where everybody's at fault. I know Vince wants to take the gamble and keep it hosting, and I know if Tampa says no, we don't want to. I know Tampa's gonna look like, I know WWE's gonna see Tampa in a negative light for a little bit, be like, oh, this city refused to host our show. But whereas as a sane person, they'll be like, okay, they took initiative, they took protocol, they canceled one of the biggest events in all of pro wrestling, for the sake of the well-being of not only for the city, but for the fans that are coming in as well. And like I said, I'm another individual that me and Alejandro, we're going to another big major event, Double or Nothing, whereas, they decided to cancel it as well. I'm not going to be mad about it. I'm like, hey, they're taking initiative, they're taking protocol, especially in a big city like Las Vegas, that's a big risk, to get infected as well. Or I'm like, are people going to struggle financially? Absolutely. But here's the thing. The majority of the time people can come back through finance, but a lot of people, when it comes to your health and life and well-being, sometimes you got to be like, nope, I'm not taking my chances, I'm not taking my risk. And like Tyler said, if Vince ends up hosting WrestleMania and they infect way more people, it's a hypothetical scenario, but it's not even a hypothetical scenario, it's a
very, very possible thing.
Yeah, it's a very possible thing. This is going to be worse than what happened with Chris Benoit 13 years ago, man. This is going to be way worse than what happened with the whole steroid scandals and all stuff. This, like you said, WWE is going to be looked at in such a negative way that I feel like, there's a high chance that, professional wrestling won't be the same ever again. It'll be back to Carney level forms of entertainment if the biggest company on the planet pretty much was a catalyst of causing a lot of people to get infected. Other countries won't allow them to come in anymore. WWE will put them in smaller venues. Other cities will put them in smaller venues to the point where, they'll be an independent promotion as well.
I'm sorry, but I'd rather be the company that canceled WrestleMania than the company that, we're the reason why more people have the virus. That's not how I want to go down. Franklin, how do you?
Say Pat, this you, Tyler, I'm with you on that one. It hurts me to say it, but I'm not because I don't want to agree with you, but it's just that as a fan, and as a human being, I feel like it is a necessity.
Yeah, I do feel like ultimately, if they have to cancel, if it gets to the point where they have to cancel and they're not able to put in the proper health and safety measures to where they feel like they can justify an ends to a mean, I think they gotta bite the bullet, they gotta postpone it, they gotta cancel it, they gotta do whatever to it, but they can't risk someone dying from there. I think that if a couple people get the coronavirus, it's ultimately going to come down to the person who originally had it. That's who's going to take the blame for it. That's just how the media works.
No, that's not how the media works. I mean, that is how the media works, but you also got to take it perspective. People are stupid. People will go no matter what. There are wrestling fans who are determined to go to WrestleMania no matter what. So yes, it's going to be the fans' fault, but it's going to be WWE getting all of the blame. Yes, Tampa got the blame, but it's going to fall all on the company that approved of it and allowed it to happen. WWE has say on whether it happens or not. If they approve and it goes forward, Vince McMahon is going to be the evil villain in all this for allowing it to happen, and rightfully so.
No, it's true. Whereas
I'm not trying to put your opinion down, Franklin, but it just gets
No, yeah. Like back in January when when they first discovered it, when they discovered it in China, when they discovered CV in China, dude, the negative backlash China got, oh, no one go to China, no one go to China, no one go to China, no one go to China. Whereas, if it happens in WWE where they infect more people because of CV, it was like, don't go to WWE, don't go to WWE, no, WWE is bad, WWE is bad. It's that same scenario, like you said. People are sheep when it comes to the media. When China was discovered to have like a lot of cases of CV, people blacklisted China, and what would you think they won't do the same thing to WWE?
That's again, not trying to put your opinion down, Franklin, but I just got a little defensive because I just feel like it's a scenario where I feel like I don't feel like I know WWE will get the blame for it. If WWE gets the blame, professional wrestling will get the blame for it. And that's the worst case scenario. We don't want to be known as that. We don't want to be known as that brand. That's the reason why. It's just not worth it, in my opinion. It's not worth it.
I think WWE can save face by by postponing or canceling WrestleMania, whatever it is they have to do. Who I really feel bad for here is the city of Tampa. Because I think the city of Tampa is going to get a negative stigma around it, regardless of what happens. I think it's going to get a stigma. I mean, we've seen it happen with cities. We've seen it happen with places like Detroit, where it just gets this stigma of it being a dirty city or a sickly city. And if they cancel it, they canceled it because they had too many sick people there. If they go through with it and somebody gets sick, oh, that city got people sick.
You don't think that's worse?
You can't really win if you're Tampa.
You don't think it's worse to be known as the city that got people sick?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm in agreement with you there. I think it's worse. But I think either way,
it's a lose-lose for Tampa, right?
Yep, it's a lose-lose for Tampa.
It is lose-lose because, look, I see where Franklin's coming from as well. It's a lose-lose for Tampa because, let's see, they keep it. They're known as the city that got more people sick. They cancel Mania, they'll be like it'll also have that negative stigma that let's not trust the city, whatever, yada yada yada, and it's gonna be a financial law. Can they cancel Mania? The city of Tampa lost millions and millions of dollars.
Okay, you guys keep talking about them getting sick. I'm talking about worst case scenario here. What if somebody gets sick for WrestleMania and they die? It's all gonna draw back to they were at WrestleMania. That's where it stems from. Now professional wrestling's plagued forever because of it. That's kind of where I feel like the worst case scenario is, that I don't feel like a lot of people are really thinking about.
And at that point, what if someone was already sick? They're gonna point fingers at WrestleMania regardless. That's just how it is. They're gonna point fingers at WrestleMania. If someone was already sick and they get progressively worse, or they start showing symptoms around WrestleMania time, and then they go to the show, and let's say they don't even come into contact with anyone. Let's say by some miracle of God, they don't spread the illness, and they pass away regardless. Fingers are gonna get pointed at WrestleMania. Fingers are gonna get pointed at Tampa. Fingers are gonna get pointed at pro wrestling.
So pretty much, this is the first time ever that WWE is at a loss scenario.
It's a lose-lose scenario for pretty much everybody involved.
Well, I mean, not so much for the fans, because you had the choice whether to go or not. I think if you go to WrestleMania, you put yourself at risk.
I think the best thing that could be done,
just to postpone it. That's the only thing that should be done here. I'm not saying no WrestleMania at all this year, because I don't think that's even going to happen. But just push it back to later in the year. We don't necessarily need to have it right this second if it's not possible and logical to happen right now. So, yeah. But Alejandro, I don't think you really said too much. Logan, you as well. What do you guys think about this? Do you think they should hold WrestleMania, push it back? What's going on?
I mean, if they had to either cancel or postpone it, I'd just say postpone it, because relocating it will be a pain in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
It will be terrible. So I'd just postpone it.
Logan, what do you think?
Postpone it, dude. I wouldn't go to that big of an event if there's that big of a risk. I wouldn't risk that. I wouldn't risk that at all.
But do you guys agree with the scenario that it's going to be all WWE's fault if something happens and people go there and a lot more people contract the virus because of this event? It's going to reflect badly on not just WWE but professional wrestling as a whole. I mean, where do you guys sit with that? Do you guys think it leans more towards not holding WrestleMania at that point, or what happens then?
I mean, unfortunately, it will be WWE's fault if someone dies. That'd be terrible.
I mean, I'm not trying to think about it, but it's just a
It's a
possibility.
possibility you got to think about.
You got to think about the grand scheme
You
of
never
things.
know. You can never know.
And that's why I think it's just a matter of time before we get the announcement. And I think it's ridiculous that we were supposed to get it today, but then they postponed it to next week. It's like we're really going to be 2 weeks away from WrestleMania at that point. Why are you waiting so late to say something? Just
Fear.
Yeah, I get it's fear, but get the fuck over it. Like, everyone else is scared too. You're the company. You got to make the decisions. Like, come on. People have already booked I booked flights. Logan booked a flight. We booked it. We're staying in the same Airbnb. You know, if WrestleMania gets canceled and the events surrounding it get canceled, if we're too close to WrestleMania, how am I so sure that everything's going to get refunded back to me at that point? You're putting everyone else at a great risk by just waiting so damn long. I think they should have been made an announcement by now. I think the fact they're waiting it out is just the even worse testament to their protocol right now. They know what the decision they have to make. I don't know why they're still deciding on this. Just postpone it. It's I know it's not that easy and it's not that simple. They gotta make calls. They gotta lose money. They gotta do a lot of things, but it's better to be safe than sorry. It's just better to be safe than sorry.
From what I can tell from a financial standpoint, the biggest losses would be with networks and like television networks, because I know around June is usually when they do the first public broadcast, free airing of WrestleMania, and July is around the rumored time that they would postpone it to, if there was going to be a postponing. So you would essentially either have to do the free broadcast then, which they're probably not going to do, or that you would have to cancel that in general and lose the revenue and ratings from that.
Yeah, well, that's kind of really all our thoughts on this CV going on right now. Last thoughts on that, guys. I mean, a lot of rescheduling and postponement for professional wrestling. I think we're at probably one of the worst periods of professional wrestling than ever. There's going to be less of it now, and a lot of no people shows. I mean, I don't really want to say how does it bounce back because nobody really knows, but where do you guys think it's heading for the near future for professional wrestling?
I don't know. I think wrestling is kind of late to the curve on this. I think obviously the first place that's going to react is probably going to be basketball, the NBA. They seem to have it the worst right now. But I think sports in general it's a horrible time.
Yeah.
Anything sports or public.
Yeah, like
events.
I said, look, basketball suspended themselves pretty much at the hype of pretty much the playoffs just right around the corner. NHL pretty much said nope, not this year. MLB pretty much delayed it. We don't know what the NFL is gonna be like. I mean, because we don't know how long this epidemic is gonna last. So MLB and the NFL are pretty much on thin ice. The MLS, all these other sporting events when it's just crazy.
Yeah, Logan, pro wrestler. Side a sec, give us your final thoughts before we tune out of this Chopo Podcast episode 11.
On the CV?
Yeah, final thoughts.
Wash your hands. Wash your ass.
Please do that.
Shower. Brush your teeth.
Don't do drugs.
Don't do bad drugs.
Only good drugs.
Only the good one.
White Claw.
Say your prayers, drink your vitamins.
Close your eyes, shut your mouth, dream a dream, get us out. Dream. Sorry, I had to light the mood up a little bit. Oh man, now I want to watch Shark Real Life Girl. That was such a trash movie, but I love it anyway. But yeah, guys, that was Chopo Podcast episode 11. I'm really sorry to everybody in the chat. I really didn't get to answer your question or anything, but this is very much something I wanted to get out there and talk about. I'll be sure to answer your questions in a separate video, and any questions you guys have regarding that. We'll be resuming business as usual tomorrow. Don't really know what we're going to be talking about, with all these shows being canceled, I think it's definitely a tough time for content creators. I know we're the least of the worry of professional wrestling, but for somebody like me, there's no New Japan to talk about. There's no Stardom to talk about. WWE's doing no people shows, and AEW's doing no people. It's a rough time to really try and talk about professional wrestling right now, except for bringing up the negative with the CV. So it's we're all struggling here, but everyone stay safe out there. And we all love you here at the Tyler-kun Williams channel. Thank you all, Alex, Alejandro, Franklin, and Logan for joining me on this episode of Chill Pill Podcast. Sorry I had to be very doom and gloom and serious, but, time's call for it.
Serious topic. So.
Yeah, very, very serious, very serious. But that being said, I love you guys as always, and I will see you all later. Peace out, guys.
Peace out.